That time of the year when the fall flowers really start showing their thing. Here we see a glorious yellow senecio that is from South Africa. Species yet to be determined. It grows in the high veld and is pretty hardy and self-seeds. I do thin out extras, and it'll bloom all summer, but it really does its mass bloom now. It's great pollen for the bees. So hence, yes, non-native plants can serve purposes for native species. People will tell you otherwise, but not always. Is that the case? Sometimes they are happy to utilize nectar sources that are other than what they usually get. Here we see a native plant, well, at least in Florida. This is the salvia that always germinates from seed and comes up every year as we sowing annual. Behind it is a blue perennial salvia. I think this is salvia reptans or something like that. It's from the plains. It's a beautiful blue, deep blue thing with fine leaves and not too tall. Good height on it, and a glorious blue, really good blue. And as we walk around, we can see again the senecio, just like a massive gold in bloom, a really gorgeous species. And we can see crinums trying to make seed last minute. They flower off and on all year, and they're totally hardy here in New York, at least the bulbospermums are. And if we pan around, we can see marigolds blocking the path. They resow as well as I plant them too. And I've had more of the sort of reverting to wild form types. There's a nice red one in there. And they give you all these pretty single and semi-double flowers and various heights. They stressed a bit on the drought, but they're coming back, most of them, from when the rains came. A couple of them rotted off. They're doing pretty good. We have Cleome hirta from South Africa. The flower's a little bit closed today. Again, I have my garden gloves on, which I use latex gloves to minimize the dirt problem. But yeah, it's got cute little flowers that are not quite as open as they would be in better weather, warmer weather. It likes warm, but it resows. This is Amelia coccinea. Comes in yellow and red and orange. It's a little tropical thing that also self-sows here in abundance and gives beautiful little button-like flowers. We also have Ceratotheca, triloba, throwing some flowers. This is the standard purple form, the South African foxglove. It resows here to a limited degree. If you give it bare ground, it'll be less limited. All these guys came up on their own, and there's more Amelia. As I pan around, we have a salvia guaranitica here. That is the pale form, Argentine skies, I think. It's doing well. I do give it some winter mulch of wood chips to keep it going. And over here we have some very nice marigolds. Beautiful flowers. And behind it we have Kiss Me Over the Garden Gate, Polygonum orientale. I can see some deer damage here where they've lopped off a few flowers. I spray, but sometimes in the fall they get ahead of me, the deer, because it rains a lot and I need to respray. But I don't think we'll have to worry about not getting enough seeds from this plant. And in fact, I do thin them pretty vigorously during the spring. Here's more Ceratotheca. They don't bother this. There will be some seed of it dropping later. There's a lot of nice zinnias in here. I grew them from seed, of course, and this year I did spray them with fungicide to keep the mildew off when a few plants got mildew, and it really worked well. So I'm getting nice color and performance from these well into October when they start looking miserable usually. But as you can see, they look beautiful. And behind it, near the fire escape, is the so-called peanut butter plant, senecio or cassia didymocarpa. Goes under both names. I forget which is current. Nice flowers. I buy these as well-grown plants at a place called Good's Greenhouses in Pennsylvania, and they just hit them up on their sales, and they're a real bargain. And I save the seeds, but to grow them, you would want to start the seed early, so the plant has some size to give it a chance to get big enough. It has beautiful yellow flowers, funky smelling leaves, and peanut butter would not be what I think they smell like, but they smell like something interesting. But they're not interesting to the deer, which is good. And there's another lovely zinnia. And we have regular cleomes. They're mostly finishing up and seeding. I don't like the spines on our regular cleome, the Cleome hausfoliana, but it is a great bee plant. It is annoying to have to thin it, but if it gets big because of those spines, but it's admired by passerbys. The flowers are admittedly beautiful, and hummingbirds seem to come around too to it. So we'll take a little further walk in the garden, and you can see Nigella is coming up in like mats. I've planted some new Haplocarphya laredas here on a senecio species with blue flowers that I collected in South Africa. We put them out here. They should be hardy. There's a verbena tenuisecta that comes up here. from seed, and sometimes plants survive. The salvia greca has been hardy here for a few years. They come and go though. This is a cactus pile. We can see some beautiful hips on this native cactus here I grew from seed. That's the eastern one, I think it's Opuntia humusifolia or compressor or whatever it is. There are some western ones that are spinier and bigger. The deer will come step in here, but they don't get much in the way of food here. They did chomp once on a cactus, and only once. I think they learned their lesson. But yeah, this is a big sand pile I put here. Over the years, the Opuntia colonies have been growing. There are different ones here. Here we can see a nice fragilis type. And there's the hoof mark of Bambi beast. We put some Delospermas in recently. That one's the orange one, so that should be very nice. Zinnia grandiflora grows here. It's fading though. I need to plant more of these. And this is a aster I found in the sand barrens somewhere down in Jersey, and they flowered. But you know, it is the end of the season. In spring, there's a lot more things blooming on this pile. And then as I pan around, we have here a colony of Haplocarphya that survived last winter with little protection. They have yellow flowers. They're not opening widely because it's cloudy and there's a couple of drops of rain. But they're like tall gerberas, and next to them are some senecios, macrocephalus. This is my own collection, but I have also grown it from purchased seed as well. They're hardy. There's another Haplocarphya with the golden flower. And of course we have all these nice Ceratothecas, trilobas around. And of course we have many Berkheya purpureas here, a whole colony of them in mass seed. I haven't collected the seed because it's kind of viciously guarded by those sharp, shiny, spiny bracts. And there we see the flower, because there's always a Berkheya purpurea flowering around here. Actually, there's 3 flowers on that stalk. They bloom, they have a sort of a mass bloom in earlier summer. And then there's always a spike coming here or there ever afterwards in the various spots I have. And this is my biggest colony of them. There's a golden rundo grass behind it that I thought would die, but it somehow survived. Even the drought didn't bother it this summer. And we have some more Ceratothecas here in seed. These are the seed pods. They open up and little sesame-like seeds drop out. It's in the sesame family. And next to it is a Native American plant. This is Salvia penstomoides from Texas. It is hardy here. It's slow to grow though. I mean, you can see like there's one that didn't bloom. One plant bloomed and is making seed this year for the first time. The flowers are rather large. I can see why they called it penstomoides. Next to it is a big plant of Helichrysum splendidum in one of the hardier forms of it. This guy is the only one that flowered. I cut back the others because they were badly damaged in the past winter. Some winters they come through fine. This plant is probably 10 feet long and about, I say, 4 feet wide maybe. It does spread and has golden yellow flowers, and the leaves smell nice and are silvery and are unattractive to the various mammalian vermin that visit the property. So we like it for a lot of reasons. Next to it you can see a Niphophia there that I planted out. That looks like it's either multiflora or brucea, probably multiflora. It's a young plant. It will get protection for the winter. I have big ones in the back that'll be blooming soon. And we have glad hybrids here that survive. Their biggest enemy seems to be voles that dig around and try to get them. And we have the daturas are fading and going into seed. If I have time, I'll try to collect the seed and throw it away or give it away, because these spiny fruits open up a lot of seeds and they make a lot of seedlings. It's a hardy plant though, and it grows very well in hot, dry summers like we had. And it is the form I collected this in Kanab, Utah. So it's pretty darn winter hardy. This is an asparagus verticillata, I believe it is. It was a Panayote collection from Inner Mongolia, I believe. And they've been back here in this difficult spot, which is pretty dry under these pine trees from the neighbor. And it's been doing good. And they made a few red berries I collected for the seed distribution. So there's some red berries right there that I've missed. It's a big, fluffy plant. You can see some Niphophia caulescens around too. They flower back here and survive the drought too. I gave them a little water, but there's only so much water I could give when we had a drought of the extremity that we had this year. Ditto for the many hellebores back here. They're another good plant for a difficult dry spot like this. When they wilt down is when I water them in the summer, but it looks like even the babies are still coming up. I've got quite a few hellebore patches on this property. And this is Peony obovata or japonica. It's got a meh flower, but a gorgeous seed pods. Here's a pine needle got stuck in there. It's got these beautiful red arrows. The real seeds are the blue-black berry things, but they're not berries, they're hard seeds. And this plant you grow for its seed pod. I got them from a friend in town who has a lot. They have a lot on their property, and they seed around. So I thought they were good to put in some tough spots, and they've done very well. And I'll pan around here again. We have this is probably Nymphophea multiflora, but you're not going to bloom this year, but you certainly will next year when I get you, after I give you a nice mulch for the winter. There's Crocosmia lucifer here, which has died back, but made a nice show. Did not like the cold weather. Here's Nymphophea brucei. The spikes are emerging, and there looks like there's going to be two. They're in a race with the frost. I probably should give them some liquid fence to make sure the deer don't think they're asparagus. They usually don't bother Nymphopheias, but I've read they do in some areas. But I guess in New York they don't know what they are because nobody ever grows these things. This is a big Nymphophea. Big yellow torch-like flowers, very late, obviously, and a very rare species in its habitat in South Africa as well. But here with wood chips it can survive. Oh, look, another Berkheya next to a red snapdragon. There we go. Beautiful. I love the amethyst color and the nice inside to that flower. The Berkheya does not require any protection whatsoever. Totally hardy, a good perennial that is getting around more than it used to. And going back through the sand pod, we have some marigolds here again. These are some decent double ones. They're pretty. And they come up, I like when things come up in random spots. I like surprises. And back here we can see the agapanthus that are seeding. They had their nice flower time. There's some snaps I got from Glicks that are trying to do their thing. They're deer resistant. If the winter's mild, they may live, and they'll be even better. Next to it is another Nymphophea brucei. This guy, I don't see the spikes on. This is my second plant from Silver Hill Seed, and I don't see this guy spiking, so we probably will not get any seed from a selfing of the other plant. We shall see. There's also a chance it could cross with multiflora since they bloom at the same time. There's a Rudbeckia here. I don't know what it is. I got it from Kathy Venezio when we both worked at actually not from Kathy Venezio, but she is the source. I worked with her at the Botanic Garden. She gave some to Doris Strauss. Doris Strauss gave some to me when she was moving from her property on City Island. And we don't know what it is. I sent it to Rick Grazzini, I think, and he didn't figure out what it is either. It's a good bloomer. It does seed around and spread. We have it in the school garden where it's quite prolific. And I keep it here, but I will have to deadhead it if I don't want a million babies. But it's a good bloomer, and it blooms a long time. And we have more marigolds here, more salvias that survive through and they all start looking really great before the frost. That's when they really start to mass bloom. And over here, we have another big, tall Nymphophea. I got this as Natalensis from one of the Western nurseries. I'm trying to remember, maybe it was Far Reaches, maybe it was Sequim, I forget. It's got a few flowers left. And it may set seed, it may be self-fertile. I see pods on it, but they don't seem to be sticking, and that's an indication maybe not. Or maybe it's, oh no, these look good here, these green things. We'll see. And as we go around, the tall rose here is Rosa Hansa, which is a rugosa rose that is very tough and very reliable. There's daylilies here, my own hybrids I've grown out. I do need to cull them when they bloom next year. Some of them had their first flowers this year, but I didn't cull yet. This is Crinum, I think it's Carolina White or something like that. It has white flowers, but the stalks tend to lay down. It proliferates like mad. I got it from eBay, and it's a good doer. I usually give it chips, but I'm not sure it might survive without them. At the rate it's multiplying, and I've got 2 clumps, maybe I should leave one just to see what would happen. There's some rare goldenrod here that flowered, but it's going into seed now. It might be Ronensis, something I got from Plant Delice years ago. And here we're, less floriferous over here with daylily leaves. Here's a late tall marigold, I think, is what you are, or a semi-tall marigold. I've tried planting some hetechiums against the house. These are species hetechiums. I'll walk through the Nymphophea here. I'm going to test these guys for hardiness. I grow densiflorum against the house, but these are looking like some mix of seed come out of China, and they look like spicatums. This one's blooming now. So I will wood chip mulch these for the winter to protect the rhizomes. They're near the porch, but there might not be as much heat coming out of there as there is from the house wall. By the house wall, we have plenty of gingers. This one does get nice chips on it. This is the very fragrant Hetechium coronarium. Not a rare plant, but certainly something you don't see in New York very much. It's grown really big. And next to it is densiflorum. Oh, there's still some spikes here with color. This is the densiflorum, what the flower looks like on it. It doesn't smell a lot. And this one has survived against here. We have the compressor unit or whatever is here. This is annoying. There is two azaleas and crepe myrtle I cut back to the ground. I want to get rid of them and make this an open garden. However, I will have to figure out a way to cover the compressor in such a way that it looks not so obvious. But I don't want the bushes here because they block the windows inside. And I want this is a nice sunny patch, ideal for zone pushing fun stuff. The ginger that's falling all over is one of the hybrid ones with orange flowers, and it's falling all over because it was behind the crepe myrtle, so it overstretched. And you can see an impatiens floriferous here. It was a tough year for impatiens with that dry summer, but some of them made it through and made enough seed for next year. We have some other things here, is more zinnias. These Aztec types are really pretty with the bicolor flowers. And there's Morea polystockia from South Africa blooming, and a honeybee making good use of it. It survives against the wall there with a few chips thrown over it, along with these hypoxies from South Africa, various sorts of indeterminate parentage. There's a fading amaryllis there that I just got this year from eBay. That's the heirloom type, probably the Johnsonii, and I planted the bulbs, and they're a little out of sequence. They took a while to start growing, but they should be hardy with chips on them, and they're planted somewhat deep. And then there's a Pelargonium luridum down there. It's second year. It should be flowering size next year, especially with the bushes gone. That too will be hardy with chips on it. And over here, we find more things. This just comes up by seed everywhere. It's Chlorophytum saundersii. It's not always hardy, but near the wall it might be. And there's some more luridums planted here. Just Phrygia lax. I put in some more Amaryllis belladonnas. Here's one with seeds on it. And then there's oxalis that survive against the wall. Unfortunately, the flowers are closed because of the lack of sun right now. And this is a filiform form of luridum I just put out this summer. The gray-leafed oxalis, I thought I lost it to voles, but I see at least 3 or 4 little sprouts here. That's the most cold-hardy of all, Oxalis melanasticta. And then this is Stenorrhyncha, which has an interesting way of surviving. It's a winter grower in South Africa, but it blooms early and long. So what it does here is it comes up in the fall, blooms. Hard frost will kill it back, unlike melanasticta usually. And it'll come right back up from the roots again and bloom again in June and then die down and take a summer dormancy. Doesn't seem to bother it. And we have some Ansonias here that I may thin out for putting more South African things in. And we took out a Calycanthus I planted that I grew from seed. I didn't know that our native strawberry bush suckers so badly, so that was quite a job. And I'm trying to, knock it off between Roundup and digging up roots. And I put some other crinums and extra helichrysums out here. This salvia oxophora I put out here, I'm going to cover it up. I know it's hardy down south. I don't think it is here, but wood chips may save it. We have gingers against the house. These are glorious in bloom, these hybrid orange ones. And there's some roots I got to get rid of. And this is the plowbreaker, the good old plugbreaker from South Africa, a erythina that is not a tree and grows from a woody tuber. And it flowered this year but made no seed. Often it starts forming them and they drop off. I need to grow more from seed, but I have to get some fresh seed one day of more. I have a second one in the back. And then here's another big colony of Salvia guaranitica. This is the standard black and blue form, which is a really great Hummer plant. There's a berberis here I've been trying to take out, but it's still throwing out sprouts. It's a rarish one, but I took cuttings and I bought them to the Berkshire chapter. I forget what species it is, but I came from far reaches years ago, and I rooted the cuttings because I wanted to distribute to people who like woody plants, and someone who is a good gardener got them. But I don't want it here because I want to grow more of these herbaceous things. There's a saw going because we have some people working, but yeah, we have Amaryllis belladonna here again. These are the ones from Bill Welch, the late Bill Welch, and Bill the Bulb Baron, and they're making seeds. I crossed Crinum bulbospermum pollen onto them, but they may also be crossing with each other, who knows. And there's a tall silphium here, compositum I think it is. I collected it down south. There's also Acanthus cinnii here. I don't see the flower buds yet, but they should be appearing. Oh, here they are. Here's a spike. It's got a little black on some of the bracts. It's always a very late bloomer, and it's always a race to the frost. It survives against the house with a little mulch, but when its red flowers finally start to open, I know the frost is near. Next to it is Cocutia coccinea, mint thing, with not terribly impressive orange flowers. They look more impressive in the books than they do on the plant. It also blooms very late, but it survives against the wall easily. And you can see back in here we've got some more Nymphophilus. This is Nymphophila nordiae. They took a beating this last winter, but it was a late winter, but it was cold, and it knocked the leaves all the way back, but they just made more sprouts. They look like tillandsias. You grow them more for foliage than for their not so beautiful flowers. Behind them are caulescens, which are utterly reliable and hardy. And I think I have a hybrid between them near the walkway here, which has an intermediate leaf. It's kind of in between and rarely sets seed. Then we have these nice alliums, these Japanese alliums. We have the white form. Got this from the Berkshire chapter that I belong to at the Nards and North American Rock Art Society. And there's the purple form. We've got them both, and they're seeding around. And they don't like competition, but they do pretty nice. And I'm going to go walk up the walkway one more time so we can see the zinnias on the side. Underneath them will be red tulips coming up next year, which will need a lot of deer spray to keep the deer away. The red Darwin-type tulips came with the property, and I've maintained them all these years. We've been here since 2012, late 2012. And I found out the first year, yeah, they do have deer here. I thought they didn't have deer because they had the tulips in the pictures when they were selling the house. But no, you have to spray them, and that keeps them off. And spray them when they start coming up, because the deer will come investigating early on. But I put some zinnias out, and zinnias, again, are a great flower to grow. The deer don't eat them here. I've heard of them eating elsewhere. They don't touch them here. They'll sometimes chomp a marigold, but they'll never chomp a zinnia here so far. And they come in all these nice colors, and you can get the seeds of all these different kinds. I think a lot of these seeds I bought from, was it Hazard Greenhouses? They sell you big packs of them. So I have plenty left for future years in the fridge. This red one's particularly stunning. And you can see behind there's another salvia guaranitica. Back over here through the daylily bed. And there's a Kiss Me Of the Garden Gate again. There's the Rosa rugosa. There's some, oh, they're still flowering, the hibiscus. Let me go over there and check them out. Walk through these daily beds. I see the deer have been chomping some daylily foliage. Well, they're finished, so it's not such a bad thing. Oh yeah, this is blooming still. This is a hybrid of Cossenaeus, a red one. Still blooming at this late time of year. True Cossenaeus is next to it and much smaller and getting ready to go dormant. But yeah, these flowers are small for this hybrid, but I'm shocked it's still trying to bloom. I don't know what it was crossed with, because it looks a lot like Cossenaeus, but the petals are broader. And it's very tall. And we can again see sort of a panorama of the garden here. The wild little botanical jungle I've created here, and that provides endless sources of amusement and sometimes agonizing work, but yeah, it's certainly different, and we get people coming to look at it all the time in the neighborhood because it's something different, and beloved by the wildlife, although I wish the deer would partake of less, I wish they were less interested. But anyways, so we'll conclude at that point.